Hey everybody, it's Ann Beebe. Today is Tuesday, July 28th, 2020. I'm Barb Hammer. So I want to get back on track and do a more serious video. I've done some outdoor videos because the weather had improved and I've been cooped up so much I needed to get out. Um, um, yeah, so I've had some technical problems with some of those outdoor videos. So the sort of rants, things that are on my mind. Um, and last few days it's been really hot, so a little too hot to be making videos indoors. So last week I got my hair cut again. So I got my hair cut early June after 6 months, and it had grown out a lot. Still looked okay. But when the weather gets warm, I got to get it cut shorter because my head just, I must have a lot of brain activity or something because my head just sweats like, I don't know what. So for the second time, for the haircut, I had to put on the mask. Yep, I had to put on the mask. And it's the salons, they don't have the choice here. It's the rule if they want to stay in business. So uh, the hairstylist is just nearby. So I'm going to a new one, a small business. South Asian lady runs it. And I want to make sure she stays in business because they're trying to put all of these small shops out of business. So she told me she's gotten used to the mask thing. It's gotten better. So she's getting used to cutting people's hair while they're wearing a mask. It gets a little tricky around the ears, especially for me because I have shorter hair. But she's figuring it out. And but the first time I had to wear a mask, my body, I listened to my body, and my body was telling me this is not good. So it's hot. And the second time it was very uncomfortable because the weather was warmer and there was no air conditioning. I mean, it was a comfortable temperature, but with the mask on, very unpleasant. So it's harder to breathe, and I don't have any lung conditions or anything. So I listen to my body, and I know this is not good. And the science, the actual science, not the corporate pseudoscience, confirms this, that these masks, they don't, the packaging says so, that they don't stop viruses. They don't protect you from viruses. Specifically the coronavirus. They just don't. The COVID-19. And you can tell, like, and then there's ridiculous fashion accessories that are masks. So I don't know. This is just common sense to me. I kind of bought into the mask thing at first, and I thought, okay, that makes sense. But once I wore one, and then once I looked into the actual science, they don't do anything to protect you. In fact, they can make things worse. Bacteria can build up. The heat, humidity, and if you actually have uh, the virus or something, it can kind of breed and make things worse. So anyway, that's my mask story. I don't talk about it a lot, but I'm very firm about this. I'm respectful. I know in Asia it's kind of a custom, different situation there. That's fine. But it's not normal in the West, and the way they're trying to impose these mandates, that's a problem, and I don't think they do that in China, or not so much. I don't know. So anyway, so today there's a lot of things I want to talk about. I want to get back on track and talk about China. So I had to kind of narrow down this topic, and I like to talk about people you don't hear about, but are very important behind the scenes. So last year I made a video about a figure named Michael Pillsbury. and I call him the Pillsbury Doughboy. So he was kind of the brains behind. I called him sort of the brains behind the Hong Kong, this what I call the CIA, um, MI6 NGO terrorism. But in this, if you're talking about the U.S., it's the CIA NED. NED, National Endowment for Democracy, is the main NGO front for the CIA. So Michael Pillsbury was a very interesting figure, and he goes back to the Reagan days, and you're going to hear a lot of that, the Reagan days. And he was in charge of Reagan's covert policies, like for the Contras and the Mujahideen in Afghanistan. Anyway, so that's Michael Pillsbury, and but today I want to talk about this fellow. So everybody always thinks that the Western policy, U.S. policy, is racist. You'll hear a lot of identity politics. That's racist. There's always these white people, white dudes, and white people are the scourge of the earth. But this guy is Chinese, and this is the guy, the brains behind Mike Pompeo and the aggressive foreign policy, aggressive policies that the U.S. has against China. So this fellow's name is, this is him, standing with Mike Pompeo. So his name is Miles, his Chinese name is Yu, that's the family name, Yu Maochun. But he usually goes by Miles, they often adopt an English name, Western name. So Miles Maochun Yu. So this article is actually a digital translation from Chinese. It's from a Hong Kong news outlet. And this is it's based on a Washington Times article or interview with him. And so it says China ranks first in national security issues. So yeah, this is Miles Maochun Yu. And I forget. Okay, where to be? Oh yeah, so there's this other article. And so who's the brain behind Mike Pompeo's anti-China stance? So Mike Pompeo's principal policy and planning advisor on China is Miles Maochun Yu. And he does indeed have some very dark thoughts about China and the Asia Pacific. So a little bit of background on him. Let's see where to begin here. Yeah, he came to so where is that? Oh yeah, okay. So here it is. So this is the Washington Times article that Hong Kong news outlet's article is based on. So from Mao's China to Foggy Bottom. Foggy Bottom is the U.S. state, is referenced as U.S. State Department. It's located at Foggy Bottom in Washington, D.C. He's a key player in the new approach to Beijing. So he came to the U.S. in the here it is. Yeah, so he came to the U.S. from China in 1985, and he had graduated. Let's see, hang on. Yeah, okay. So he got his bachelor's degree. I think it was I think in 1983 from Nankai University in China, and then he came. Yeah, and then he came to the U.S. in 1985. So that's when China was sending a lot of students to the U.S. after Deng Xiaoping had opened up China. So they were sending a lot of students to the U.S. And this says actually, it's interesting. This Washington Times article says that he actually wrote an Inside China column for the Washington Times for several years. So he was following the Tiananmen Square protest, which was a color revolution, an attempt to overthrow the government in Beijing. And I know a lot of students, Chinese students, were very pro-US at the time, and they were kind of getting their minds right, you might say. So they were wanting more democracy. Really, they wanted like a Western lifestyle. They wanted all the consumer goods, and they were being seduced with what the U.S. could offer them, and so these are up and coming academics, and but it was really so the thing in the 1980s in the U.S. was Reaganomics, trickle down Reaganomics, and neoliberalism, which hurt a lot of people, but the free markets and the wheeling and dealing in the U.S. was very attractive to a lot of young Chinese. And Maochun Yu was one of those. And he was getting the coverage of what was going on at Tiananmen Square, and it wasn't very flattering, this brutal crackdown story. So, he didn't like what he saw back in China. So he's become, and he's described as an Uber hawk. So that's pretty extreme. And he says that military conflict is all but inevitable. In this article, he's also said that in the past, according to the Trump administration, previous presidents tried both sticks and carrots with China. But for Yu and his boss Pompeo, only the stick will work with Beijing. So I've said before, soft power for the U.S. is actually the stick. For China, the soft power is the carrot. So China tries to have good relations with all countries, provide attractive business loans on good terms, not trying to squeeze countries like Western IMF loans, and imposing austerity conditions, telling other countries. China does not tell other countries what kind of policies they should have based on the loan, unlike the IMF will place conditions on countries. And anyway, so Maochun Yu, he has a very, very aggressive attitude towards China. And if people are wondering, why is the U.S. so aggressive? Well, it's not necessarily it's Pompeo and other figures in the administration. You see them, and but they have a lot of advisors that are very aggressive, and Maochun Yu is the main one. This is not Maochun Yu, sorry. This is the author of this article. Let's see what else was in here. So he says Reagan inspired him to come to the U.S. Great. And then Tiananmen rekindled his hopes for freedom and democracy in China. And Tiananmen transformed him. So, Tiananmen happened 4 years after he came to U.S. So he first went to. So he got his bachelor's degree in China, and then he came to the U.S. and he went to Swarthmore College. Now, Swarthmore College is a small private liberal arts college in Pennsylvania. And it might not seem like much, but it's a very influential little college. And it's kind of one of these upper crust private colleges, I think it's lumped together with like Bryn Mawr. Yeah, Bryn Mawr. So that's traditionally a women's small liberal arts college. I've actually been to the campus of Bryn Mawr. It's tiny, but a lot of upper crust influential women people have gone to school there. So the thing about Swarthmore, yeah, if you go through, you don't think it's a big deal. It's not a name that people are that familiar, but it's considered one of the little Ivies as an Ivy League school. So that's where Maochun Yu went. And then after that, so he got his master's at Swarthmore College. And then he went to the University of California at Berkeley, and that's where he got his PhD. And let's see, I think it's in here. Yeah. Let's see. So he got his PhD in 1994, and I forget where it's, sorry. It's not it. One of these articles said he got his, so he went to the Naval Academy. Oh, sorry. He went to the Naval Academy in 1994 after he got his PhD. It's in one of these articles. Yeah, here it is. Okay. So it says, I came directly to the Naval Academy from Berkeley in 1994. So he's been an instructor in Chinese and military. Yeah, so China, he's taught Chinese. So he teaches courses on China, East Asia, military diplomatic history, and non-Western warfare. So those are the areas that he's taught. Yeah, okay. So after he got his PhD doctorate at the University of California, Berkeley, he took a position as a professor of modern China and military history at the Naval Academy in Annapolis, Maryland. So Annapolis, Maryland is not that far from Washington, D.C., in case you don't know. Okay, so he is, and it even says, this is the U.S. Naval Academy website where his page is here. And they have him as Professor Maochun Yu or Professor M. Yu. That's the problem with Chinese names. They'll stick in an English name, and then the order is all over the place sometimes. With his name, it really is. So it says here, I've highlighted it, on detailed duty at the Department of State. So he's been assigned to be Pompeo's main advisor on China. And yeah, one of these, and I highlighted this. I thought this is so this is the archived version of the Washington Times article. Unfortunately, when it's archived, it cuts off. You don't get the whole thing. Because there was a paywall or something. Sometimes with a paywall, when you're archiving, it doesn't always work out. So he is the principal China policy and planning advisor to the Secretary of State, Mike Pompeo. And he's a key part of the storied, well, sort of legendary policy planning staff on the 7th floor of the State Department. Um, the apex of American foreign policy, located just a few steps from Mr. Pompeo's office. So the seventh floor, you were hearing a lot about the seventh floor, especially I think in 2017 after Trump was sworn in into office. And was it Tillerson was his Secretary of State at first, and Tillerson fired the seventh floor. So the seventh floor was full of a lot of Clinton figures, people connected to the Clintons and Hillary Clinton. And they're kind of like a permanent staff there. Or at least they were then. There's a lot of people are really wondering a lot about the seventh floor, and I've been trying to find more information about that. So this is where Maochun Yu has been assigned, the seventh floor, and it's sometimes been referred to as the shadow government. So that's the thing. This is why I'm always interested in figures like this. These people that you don't hear about too much, but they're very, very influential. And this is where this guy is why Mike Pompeo's and the U.S. government's policy on China is so aggressive and is just ramping up the tensions. And I'm going to talk more about Mike Pompeo and other figures that you know and see. And there's some things that have been going on recently. But it's interesting that this is the guy that is forming U.S. policy on China. And, you hear a lot of people saying, oh, U.S. is being so racist and everything. Well, you got a Chinese guy who's formulating the policy. So a lot of distraction with race when it's really about the system. So, yeah, it's more about the system. And there's a lot of racism. It gets expressed. The aggressive foreign policy gets expressed racially a lot of times. And it breeds a lot of hatred, really brainwashes people into hating Chinese, and even Chinese to hate Chinese. But it's really about the system. So Maochun Yu he has been a member of the Hoover Institution. I'm not sure that he is now. These are articles that that's the Hoover Institution is a conservative think tank. And it's actually a neoconservative think tank, very aggressive foreign policy positions. So he's published a number of articles. These are dated from 2017 and 2018, so I'm not sure if he's still with the Hoover Institution. So the thing is, yeah, you're hearing China being compared to Nazi Germany. So here's his final solution in Xinjiang. And that's they like to compare the supposed repression that China is applying to the Uyghurs, Muslim Uyghurs. So it's like China is Nazi Germany and the Uyghurs are the Jews, and it's another Holocaust. And so the final solution is this reference to Nazi Germany. So about the Hoover Institution. So what's interesting about the Hoover Institution? So the Hoover Institution is, as I said, this conservative or neoconservative think tank at Stanford University in California. Very prestigious. And some of the Tiananmen Square CIA assets who were smuggled out after that color revolution, some of them went to Stanford. They got Ivy League educations and educations at prestigious schools as a reward. So what's interesting at the Hoover Institution, former Secretary of Defense General James Mattis Mad Dog Mattis served as a research fellow at Hoover Institution before being appointed by the Trump administration. So their connection there between Mad Dog Mattis and Miles Maochun Yu. What else to say about? Yeah, I was kind of flipping through some posts that I had about Pompeo. Yeah, here's the article I had posted as Miles Maochun Yu. Yeah, I said that he was involved in that. That's not correct. I thought he had been involved in Tiananmen Square, but he wasn't. I'm just correcting that now. So I don't think Mike Pompeo is really all that bright when I listen to him talk. So I think he's just sort of saying the policy positions that he expresses. I think he's getting those from Miles Maochun Yu. Oh yeah, so here's Mike Pompeo meeting with Nathan Law, who's one of the CIA MI6 NGO assets, and he fled Hong Kong recently. He's in the UK now. So that's him meeting with Pompeo. And I'm sure he met with Miles Maochun Yu too. So it's interesting. There's more I have to say about Mike Pompeo. There's a lot more I have to say about Mike Pompeo. Anyway, so I just wanted you to become familiar with Miles Maochun Yu. And it kind of explains why U.S. policy is so very, very aggressive, because this guy, he's an Uber hawk. So you can't get more extreme than an Uber hawk. Anyway, I guess that's it. What I want to say about Miles. Yeah. I did want to say, finally, I wanted to acknowledge a contact of mine in social media. So this is Daniel Ananda Pradipta. I'm sorry if I'm pronouncing your name wrong, Daniel. So he's a young man in Indonesia. I think he's around 20. I'm not sure. I think he's around 20. And Daniel is very, very principled. And he gives me a lot of good information. Like, he digs up a lot of good information. And I have to thank him, acknowledge him for doing that. And he challenges me. Like, he doesn't always agree with me. He has discussions with other people on the left, and he tries to accommodate everyone and, I guess, be sort of a bridge between people. And he challenges me. He challenges me on my views, and then, if I give him a good explanation, he might not agree with everything, but he wants to stay on good terms. And I appreciate the things that he tells me, the information that he provides. And you should follow him on Twitter. So I'll put the link to his Twitter account. He also is on Facebook, and this is his page on Facebook. And yeah. Oh, I've never looked through his pictures. I've seen him. So if you're curious about what he looks like, he's very cute. And Daniel told me something very sad today. So his maternal grandmother, she passed away, and I think he told me she had a stroke several years ago and wasn't able to speak very well and move around very well because of that. But sadly, she finally passed away today. So my deepest condolences to you, Daniel. I'm very sorry to hear that. And so he's a fine young man, and I just want to acknowledge him. So I guess that's it for now. I am definitely going to talk more about Mike Pompeo. There's a lot of stuff about Mike Pompeo and other figures, and Steve Bannon too. I'll throw that in. Steve Bannon. There's some Mike Pompeo and Steve Bannon and some other figures in the U.S. and in connection with China. And Steve Bannon's buddy, Guo Wengui, or Miles Guo. That's his name. Miles is, again, another Miles. Anyway, I guess that's it for now. So, Miles, Maochun Yu. So now you know who the Uber hawk. The Uber hawk is really pushing the aggressive policy, U.S.'s aggressive policy against China. Anyway, that's it for now. I will talk to you again soon. Bye.